Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. We're looking at something totally fascinating today, how the timing of your meals literally acts like a remote control for your body's internal clocks. We almost always think about the food we eat strictly in terms of calories, right? Or macros, or just raw energy. But recent research is showing us a completely different angle. It turns out food is actually a highly potent biological timekeeper.
Here's the roadmap for what we're covering today. We'll start with the body's master clocks, move on to how cortisol acts as a time messenger, and then look at how food hacks those clocks. After that, we'll see what happens when the rhythm breaks down, and finally, how you can eat to restore your rhythm.
But before we get into the heavy biology, let me ask you something we can all relate to. Why is it that a midnight snack makes you feel just absolutely terrible the next morning? I mean, we've all been there, right? You grab a late-night slice of pizza or maybe some ice cream, and the next day you wake up feeling completely out of sync, just groggy and lethargic. Well, it's not just a food hangover. It's actually a biological mystery, and we're going to solve it right now.
So, let's jump right into Section 1, the body's master clocks and our internal Zeitgeibers.
To really get this, we need to talk about a crucial concept called a Zeitgeiber. It's this fantastic German word that literally translates to time giver. You see, our internal daily rhythms, what you probably know as circadian rhythms, they aren't these perfect closed-off loops. They actually rely heavily on external environmental cues. Those are the Zeitgeibers, and they basically synchronize our bodies with the outside world. Put simply, your body is constantly looking for clues in your environment to figure out what time it actually is.
A great way to think about how these time givers are divided is sort of like a CEO versus factory workers setup. So photocues, which is really just light and dark cycles, they control the central master clock in your brain, specifically an area called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. That's your CEO. But non-photocues, and this is primarily your food intake, they control the peripheral clocks down in your individual organs. We're talking your liver, your gut, your fat tissue. Those are the factory workers on the floor.
Which brings us to Section 2, cortisol, the time messenger, and its crucial role.
Now, if the brain is the CEO and the organs are the workers, how do they actually talk to each other to stay on schedule? Well, cortisol usually gets a pretty bad reputation in popular media, right? We just think of it as the stress hormone. But it actually acts as the essential sync cable for your entire body. It transmits time signals from that master clock in the brain all the way out to the peripheral organ clocks. It's literally the vital messenger ensuring your whole cellular network operates on the exact same daily schedule. Let's take a look at what a healthy, properly synced schedule looks like over a 24-hour period. Around 6 a.m. or, whenever you normally wake up, we see this massive spike called the cortisol awakening response. This is literally your body's natural alarm clock kicking you into high gear. No snooze button required. Then, as the day goes on, around noon, it starts a gradual decline. And finally, by midnight, it hits its nadir. That's its absolute lowest point, which allows your body to transition into deep rest and repair.
Okay, let's move into Section 3, how food hacks your clocks, focusing on those peripheral clocks.
The data here reveals an absolutely incredible biological hack. When you eat a meal, your cortisol levels rise within 30 minutes, they reach a peak at about an hour, and then it takes 2 full hours for them to drop back to baseline. Now, why is this so important? Because eating actually shifts your peripheral clocks regardless of what the light is doing outside. I mean, think about it. Your liver doesn't have eyes, right? It tells time by when you feed it.
And this leads us to a pretty profound realization from the research. Eating against the central clock causes internal desynchronization. Let's think back to that midnight snack for a second. Imagine you're sitting there, staring at a screen, eating a slice of pizza at midnight. Your brain knows it's nighttime, but that massive post-meal cortisol spike, it completely confuses your digestive organs into thinking the sun just came up. You are literally tearing your master and peripheral clocks apart.
To put a number on just how powerful food is as a timekeeper, 5 hours. Studies show that delaying your meals by just 5 hours can alter your plasma glucose rhythms by nearly 6 hours and completely shift the biological clocks in your fat tissue. Think about that. You haven't changed the calories, you haven't changed the macros, you just changed the timing, and your entire cellular schedule gets derailed.
So what happens when this whole elegant system falls out of sync? That brings us to Section 4, when the rhythm breaks down and the loss of synchrony.
The clinical ripple effects of a disrupted cortisol rhythm are actually huge. If you look at metabolic syndrome, patients show a flattened cortisol curve with inappropriately high evening levels. That directly drives things like visceral fat and insulin resistance. For shift workers, that critical morning response gets blunted, which leads to chronic fatigue and high stress. And with jet lag, the pattern completely inverts. You get a high spike at midnight, which just crushes your sleep and your mood. It all comes right back to that broken sync cable.
And here, we can finally solve the mystery of that midnight snack hangover. When you eat an evening high glycemic or carb-heavy meal, it causes a rapid blood sugar spike. This quickly triggers a crash, which is known as reactive hypoglycemia. And because your blood sugar drops dangerously low, your body is forced to release a late-night cortisol surge just to stabilize you. You are biologically creating a massive stress response at the exact moment your body desperately needs to rest. Crazy, right?
Okay, we know how it breaks. Let's look at how to fix it. In Section 5, Eating to Restore Your Rhythm, through chrononutrition. The antidote to all this modern rhythm disruption is this fascinating emerging field called chrononutrition. It's basically the practice of coordinating the precise timing of your nutrient consumption with your body's natural daily rhythms to optimize your health. This completely reframes how we look at diet. It is no longer just about what you eat, but when you eat it. So here are the clear, actionable takeaways to help you align your Zeitgebers. First, implement early time-restricted eating. The data shows it's actually much better for your cortisol rhythm to skip dinner than it is to skip breakfast. Second, absolutely avoid food intake entirely between midnight and 6 a.m. Just don't do it. And third, if night eating is truly unavoidable because of your schedule or something, choose small, protein-rich items rather than heavy carbs.
This whole timing philosophy also ties into broader behavioral hacks. For instance, morning exercise is fantastic because it properly spikes your cortisol to perfectly match your natural morning peak. On the flip side, you really want to avoid high-intensity workouts in the evening to prevent an unwanted cortisol surge from ruining your sleep. And again, heavily limit those high glycemic and high-fat foods right before bed so your biological systems can just naturally wind down.
I want to wrap up this explainer with a provocative question that pretty much perfectly summarizes everything we've just covered. You probably know exactly what time it is on your watch right now, but what time is it in your liver? By understanding the science of chrononutrition, you can finally synchronize your internal clocks and empower your body to function exactly as it was designed to. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.